The Gambia Revenue Authority is moving from the classroom to actual transfer pricing audits as the authority steps up efforts to identify and address potential revenue risks arising from cross-border transactions. The latest phase of the program is being supported by the African Tax Administration Forum ATAF and the World Bank. The technical assistance mission, which began at the GRA Board Room on Monday, will work directly with the GRA officers on identifying transfer pricing risks, selecting suitable cases, and examining transactions. GRA Commissioner General Yankuba Dabo says the practical phase is important because knowing the principles of transfer pricing is different from actually conducting an effective audit.
Transfer pricing is one such area. This is precisely why technical assistance of this nature is so important. It allows our officers to sit with experienced experts, examine actual transactions and audit issues, understand the practical difficulties involved, and learn how those difficulties can be addressed. Therefore, commend ATAF and the World Bank for recognizing this need and for moving beyond conventional training to provide hands-on technical assistance. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the importance of this training program must also be understood within the wider context of domestic revenue mobilization. As tax administrations become more effective in dealing with traditional areas of non-compliance, the challenges we face are becoming increasingly sophisticated. Cross-border transactions, multinational business structures, and transactions between related entities create opportunities for profits to be shifted between jurisdictions, where tax administration do not possess the necessary technical experts to properly examine this arrangement. Substantial amount of revenue can potentially be lost. For a developing country such as the Gambia, we cannot afford to allow weaknesses in administrative capacity to become avenues through which legitimate tax revenues are lost. Strengthening our ability to identify transfer pricing risk and conduct effective transfer pricing audit must therefore form an important part of our broader domestic revenue mobilization strategy. This is why I particularly commend ATAF for the work it continues to undertake.
The practical work will be guided by a risk assessment framework developed during an earlier stage of the program. ATAF says the framework will help the GRA determine which transactions present risks and which cases may require further examination. But for tax authorities, following the trial of profits does not always stop at the country's borders. ATAF transfer pricing specialist Robert Luvuma says tax auditors must be prepared to follow the money.
When you are doing transfer pricing, there are three areas you have to develop together. One is the capacity, technical training, the skill to do the audit, but also you must make sure that you have a robust legislation. If your law is not robust, you will not be able to do what? To stop this. That's why we recommend that the amendments which were recommended with the Ministry of Finance here, they should be fast tracked. The other area we talked about exchange of information, we call it transparency. And in the transfer pricing audit, there's a concept we use which is called follow the money. If you see the money and you follow it, and you know where it ends, if you follow it, you may see the money ending in Dubai, in one of those islands where there is no access to information. So it will be very important to fast track the exchange of information such that you are able to access foreign information. When you get that information, you'll be surprised. You may see profitability in your country when it's 2%.
The GRA says that the exercise is ultimately about turning knowledge into practical institutional capacity. The authority is also reviewing a draft transfer pricing regulation shared by ATAF and the World Bank, where the experts will continue supporting GRA officers as they work on selected cases. A non-disclosure agreement has been signed to facilitate access to relevant information during the practical audit process. For the GRA, the longer-term objective is to make transfer pricing audits an established part of its compliance program, strengthening its ability to identify, investigate, and address risks to domestic revenue. For Voice TV, I am Fat Kurbali.